Alright, the next topic we're going to talk about is exponents. So add it to your title page. And so go to your next page. Go ahead and title it. So when we look at exponents, let's start with 2 to the power of 3. 2 is what we call the base. 3 is the exponent. And so this 3 means that we have 3 2's, and they are separated by multiplication. So 2 to the third means 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 gives us 4, and 4 times 2 gives us 8. So 2 cubed equals 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some properties or rules of exponents, and we're going to start by taking this 2 to the third that we know is 8, and now let's look at 2 to the second, or 2 squared. So 2 times 2 is 4, and now we'll look at 2 to the 1. So if I only have 1, 2, the answer would be 2. And so what I want to look at here is look for a pattern. So as I go from 8 to 4, what did I do to 8 to get 4? And you might say, or you might think minus 4, but then that rule wouldn't work going from 4 to 2. And so the rule is, for this, we're dividing by 2. And that's important because I now want to look at my pattern of my exponents. It goes 3, 2, 1. So if I keep going in this direction, my next exponent would be 2 to the power of 0. And so now 2 to the power of 0 is going to equal, now it has to follow my rule. So I have to divide by 2. And so 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. And that's our first rule. Anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So anything to a 0 power is 1. Alright, now we're going to keep looking at this. So if I went 3, 2, 1, 0, my next exponent would be negative 1. And so I have to keep following this rule. So 1 divided by 2 gives us 1/2. And I keep follow this pattern over here. So this would be 2 to the negative 2. So 1/2 divided by 2, half of a half, is 1/4, which is really 1 over 2 squared. And so now this negative exponent is our next rule. So when we have a negative exponent, it changes the location. So a negative exponent changes the location. So here I had a negative exponent, it was on top, so I move it to the bottom, and notice the exponent became positive. Alright, so let's look at our example. So here I have a negative exponent, so I need to change the location. So my 3 is on top now, and so when I change the location, the 3 goes to the bottom, my negative exponent becomes a positive, and now we evaluate 3 squared. Just means a 3 times 3, and so this becomes 1/9. So again, a negative exponent went to the bottom, became positive. 3 squared is 9. Try 1b on your own. All right, our second example. Now we're going to work with some variables. So what we want to notice here is that this negative exponent is only attached to the x. So that means I have to change only the location of the x. So it started on top, now it goes to the bottom and becomes x cubed. And we learned that anything with the power of 0 becomes 1. So just this y turns into a 1. And so we get 1 over x cubed. So try 2b on your own. All right, our next property we're going to learn is when we multiply with the same base. So they both have the base of x. So here we have x squared, which really just means x times x. And here we have x cubed, which really means I have 3 x's. And so now how many total x's do I have? And so I get a total of 5 x's, x to the 5th. Because it's x times x times x times x times x. So now if you look at 2 and 3, how does 2 and 3 make 5? By adding. So our next rule is when you multiply with the same base, you add the exponents. So when you, if I wanted to answer this on the computer, I don't have an exponent button, or maybe you do, but if you don't, what you would do is you type in x, and then you use what's called the caret button. It looks like this, and it's normally on the 6, so you have to hit shift 6, and then you type 5. So x caret 5 is how you would type it in on a keyboard. Alright, so now we're going to look at a problem with dividing exponents. And so I have 2 x's on top, so this becomes x times x. On the bottom I have 5. And so when I have a fraction with the same number on top and bottom, they cancel out, and so they become 1. And so now I'm left with the 3 x's on the bottom. And so whenever everything's gone on top, you just leave it as 1. And so this becomes x cubed. And so now look at the numbers again. With the numbers 2 and 5, how would I make 3? And the answer is you subtract. So our next rule is when you divide with the same base, you subtract where you have the greater number. Or the greater exponent. So here I have more x's on the bottom, and so I would do x to the 5 minus 2, which gives us that x to the 3rd. Alright, the last example we're going to look at real quick here is when you have parentheses raised to an exponent. And so what we do here is we shower the power, and that means we're just going to distribute our exponent in. And so right now this has an exponent as 1, of 2, of 1, and so this 3 gets showered in to all the exponents. And so now this becomes 3, 1 times 3 is 3, so we have 3 cubed, x to the 6th, y to the 3rd, And now you need to simplify 3 cubed, which just means 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27, x to the 6, y to the third. And so now try 5b.